Welcome to the Blaenavon Town audio tour. This audio tour has been developed by the Royal Commission on the Ancient and Historical Monuments of Wales, in association with CAMAL, which is a division of the Welsh Assembly that supports the development of local museums, archives and library services, and also Torfaen County Borough Council. The tour follows a circular route, introducing you to some of the most interesting buildings and locations around the town. If you choose not to follow the circular route, you can play the tracks in any order you like. As you walk around, please remember to keep to the pavements, be considerate of other pedestrians, and also to take care when crossing any roads. In 1787 the opportunity arose to lease 12,000 acres of upland at the head of the Avon Lloyd from the Marquess of Abergavenny. It was among the last really large landholdings still to be had on the edge of the South Wales coalfield. Three Midlands businessmen, Thomas Hill, Thomas Hopkins and Benjamin Pratt, all of whom were already experienced in the iron industry, identified the area as a perfect location to develop a large ironworking enterprise. The seams of coal and iron ore lay near the surface, and limestone, needed as a flux to help remove impurities during the smelting process, outcropped just beyond. In addition, clay for making fire bricks to line blast furnaces was abundant, as was the sandstone needed for constructing buildings. In November 1789 the lease was signed by the three entrepreneurs, and construction of the new ironworks was already nearly complete. The town of Blaenavon began as a cluster of houses and other buildings built by the Iron Company, close to the ironworks and alongside the tramroad which transported iron and raw materials to and from the works. A large number of workers were needed for this new industrial operation, and within 4 years the partners had built enough terraced housing to accommodate 200 people. Only a generation later did a town centre grow up, sited on a few parcels of land just off the coal measures that were not controlled by the company. Features that are typical of the prosperous iron-making towns of the South Wales valleys can still be seen: shops and public houses, churches and chapels, the Works School, and the Working Men's Institute, all surrounded by terraces of houses. Track 1. World Heritage Centre to Kennard Crescent. The tour begins beside the World Heritage Centre on Church Road. The World Heritage Centre has been created inside the buildings of the former St Peter's School, the 3 blocks of which were built in 1816, 1849 and 1860. The building to the left as you face them, closest to the church and now the World Heritage Centre, is the earliest. Before the creation of the school, the ironmaster Samuel Hopkins and his sister, Sarah, had funded a few teachers within the town, but education was still expensive for most families. As well as having to pay a contribution, the family also missed out on the wages which the children could have been earning were they not in class. After Samuel's untimely death in 1815, Sarah endowed St Peter's Free School in his memory, establishing a facility where children could learn elementary reading, writing and arithmetic. When it opened in 1816, 120 students enrolled, but this was still far fewer than the number who continued to work. The local historian, Lewis Browning, recalled that while he was at school there in the 1830s, 2 of his younger brothers toiled underground to support the family. This situation was by no means unusual, with families having to sacrifice valuable income to put a child through education. It was only sensible that the brightest child was sent to school, whilst their siblings continued to add to the collective pot. Above the entrance to the school, there is a tablet inscribed in Latin which reads, "In order that from the mouth of children she might call forth the perpetual praises of the Lord, and that she might in some part discharge, and in the best way of deserving him, the generosity of her most dear brother, though deceased, towards his own people of Blaenavon, Sarah Hopkins caused this school to be erected at her own expense, A.D. 1816. St Peter's is the oldest surviving works school in Wales. The schoolroom was in the middle, with a master's cottage at one end and a school mistress's at the other. Within the old buildings of the school The new World Heritage Centre contains video presentations, interactive touchscreens and oral history, which combine with more traditional displays to explain to visitors the different features that make up the World Heritage Site and the history of this iron-making town. Across the road from the school you can see the police station, which was built in 1894, and beyond this Park Street Methodist Church, which was built in 1885. As you walk uphill along Church Road, now the main road through Blaenavon, you're following a route that began life in 1793 as a horse-drawn railroad, linking the Blaenavon ironworks to the Monmouthshire Canal at Pontypool. The tramroad was gently graded so that wagons loaded with pig iron from the ironworks could roll down unaided towards the canal and be hauled back uphill by horses. Primitive railways like this were fundamental in establishing the layout and pattern of many ironworking settlements. Continuing up Church Road, the imposing residence of the managing partner of the ironworks is visible behind the wall on your right. This was Great House or T Mauer, now known as the Beeches, and was built between 1798 and 1800 by Samuel Hopkins. Its wooded grounds were enclosed by a wall capped with iron slag, a byproduct of the iron smelting process. For 150 years it looked past the road and across fields to the whitewashed company farm, the land having been set aside from mining in order to preserve the view, while all around the landscape was slag, spoil and scour. You've now reached the end of this track. Please pause your player and continue uphill until you reach Kennard Terrace. Once there, press play. Track 2. North Street to King Street. Walking up North Street today, it's hard to imagine the rows of workers' houses that clustered all around it until the 1960s. Just one much altered row now survives, opposite Kennard Place. Staffordshire Row and North Street was an unusual four-storey development of company housing, built in the 1820s on the left-hand side of the road as you walk up towards the ironworks. The upper two storeys, known as Staffordshire Row, were entered from the uphill side, while the lower two were built into the bank and opened onto North Street. Shepherd Square adjoined them at the bottom. Although considered to be unsatisfactory in a medical report of 1909, this slum housing was not actually demolished until the 1960s. As you continue up the road, the much altered complex of stone buildings opposite the road junction for Gilchrist Thomas Industrial Estate was once the company shop, built in the 1840s when the facility was moved from its original location up the hill at Stack Square. The company shop contained rooms for all the goods the community needed, as well as a pub, which was officially called the Crown, but known locally as the Drum and Monkey. As was just mentioned, the modern industrial estate to the west of Blaenavon is called the Gilchrist Thomas Industrial Estate, and was named after Sidney Gilchrist Thomas. Sidney was a pioneering chemist who, through experiments conducted at Blaenavon Works with his cousin, Percy Carlyle Gilchrist, the Blaenavon Works chemist, invented a method by which previously unsuitable phosphoric iron ore could be used in the production of steel. This discovery revolutionized steel manufacture around the globe, and was an achievement that led Andrew Carnegie, the American steel tycoon, to write, "These two young men, Thomas and Gilchrist of Blaenavon, did more for Britain's greatness than all the kings and queens put together." The oldest workers' housing you'll pass on this tour is that which still stands at the ironworks, Engine Row and Stack Square. These whitewashed houses were built in about 1788 to attract skilled workers to move from the Staffordshire ironworks and help establish the ironmasters' new venture here in Blaenavon. Although small and rather uncomfortable by today's standards, at the time these houses offered a very high level of comfort compared to conditions the majority could expect. You've now reached the end of this track. Please pause your player and continue uphill, past the ironworks and cross the road onto King Street. Once there, press play. Track 3. King Street and High Street.